My cheating wife had an affair with her business partner. I took perfect revenge and ruined their lives. I'd always thought my marriage was strong. Emily and I had been together for 8 years, and on the surface, everything was perfect. We had a beautiful home, 2 kids, and a life that seemed straight out of a picture book. But over the past few months, I started noticing things. Little things at first, details I could easily dismiss, but they kept adding up. It started with her phone. Emily had always been open with me about her work, and we'd share little snippets about our day when we got home. But lately, she'd been acting strange with her phone. She'd keep it face down on the counter, or when I asked her about something she'd just been looking at, she'd quickly change the subject or make an excuse to step out of the room. One evening, I walked into the kitchen to find her smiling at her phone like she'd just read a funny text, but as soon as she saw me, that smile vanished, and she shoved the phone into her pocket. Something about that didn't sit right with me. When I pressed her about it, she laughed it off, claiming it was just a text from work. But I knew her work contacts. She didn't have anyone who would be texting her like that. Then there were the late nights. I'd get home after a long day at the office, and Emily would still be on her computer, typing away, or she'd mention some urgent meeting that ran late. I wasn't stupid. I'd been around long enough to know when someone was making excuses. And she was good at it. Really good. The breaking point came one night after a quiet dinner. Emily was scrolling through her phone when she started smiling, like she was in her own little world. When I asked her what was so funny, she got defensive, saying it was nothing important. That was the moment I felt something snap inside me. I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. So, I did what any suspicious husband would do. I checked our bank account. I knew there had been a few dinners out and hotel stays here and there, but nothing that stood out. But when I looked closer, I saw transactions for fancy restaurants and luxury hotels. And none of them had been with me. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. I confronted her that night. I told her about the charges, the dinners, the hotels. Her reaction was predictable. She gaslighted me, of course. It's just work-related, she said. I had to entertain a client. The excuses flowed, but I could see right through them. That's when I knew I wasn't imagining things. She was hiding something. But what? And who? I needed proof. So, I did what any desperate man would do. I hired a private investigator. The pie followed her for a week. It wasn't cheap, but I didn't care. I needed to know the truth. I tried to go on with my days, pretending like everything was fine, but every minute that passed felt like I was living in a nightmare. What if I was wrong? What if I was just paranoid? Then, the pie sent me the photos. The first was of Emily having dinner with Ryan, her business partner. The second? Her entering a hotel room with him. I couldn't believe it. I stared at the images in shock, my hands shaking as I clicked through the gallery. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the audio. My pie had recorded a conversation where Emily admitted to having feelings for Ryan, and how she'd been spending more time with him. The words stabbed through me like daggers. I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that she'd betrayed me, or the fact that she didn't even try to hide it. So, I did what any betrayed husband would do next. I started planning my revenge. But I wasn't going to confront her right away. No, I had something far more destructive in mind. I was going to make sure she, and her lover, paid for what they'd done. I couldn't confront Emily yet. Not in the way she expected. No, this was going to be a slow burn, something far more satisfying. I'd seen the way she defended Ryan, how she'd pushed me to trust him, to invest with him. She wasn't just sleeping with him, she was conspiring with him, taking advantage of me in more ways than one. I had to make them both pay, but I needed a plan. A good one. Ryan, I knew, wasn't just some charming businessman. He was driven, always chasing the next big thing. His wealth wasn't enough. He needed more, and I knew exactly how to use that against him. I had a background in finance, nothing flashy, but I'd worked in the industry long enough to know how to manipulate numbers and trends. I was good with numbers, good at reading people, and good at seeing opportunities. If there was one thing I knew about Ryan, it was that he loved high-risk, high-reward ventures. He was always looking for the next big score. That's when it hit me. I could set a trap. A trap that would lure him in and destroy him, just like he and Emily had destroyed me. I created a fake business. It wasn't hard. A few hours of research, some well-placed contacts, and a little creativity were all I needed to pull it off. I built a website for a high-tech investment startup that supposedly offered lucrative returns in an emerging market. It looked real, slick, professional, with glowing reviews from fake investors. I even went as far as hiring an actor to pose as my CEO and set up a fake office space in a business park. I wasn't going to stop there, though. I needed to make sure Ryan would bite. So, I worked my network, casually mentioning the exclusive opportunity to a few mutual friends who would pass the information along. It didn't take long for Ryan to show interest. He was hungry, desperate for something that would make him even richer than he already was. When he reached out to me, I acted casual, like this was just another normal business deal. I told him the startup was new but had massive potential. The next step was to subtly plant the seed with Emily. I knew I had to test her loyalty, see if she would do anything to help me trap Ryan. So, one evening, I brought it up during dinner. "Hey, Em," I said, trying to sound casual, "do you think Ryan's trustworthy with business? I've been thinking about getting into something new, and he seems like the type who could help." Emily's reaction was immediate, too immediate. "Of course, Ryan's trustworthy," she said, almost too enthusiastically. "He's a smart guy, Daniel. You should totally go for it. Maybe even invest together. You'd make a killing." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? You think he's that good of a partner?" She nodded, her face lighting up with excitement. "Absolutely. In fact, I think you should consider using some of your savings to invest in this. Trust me, it's going to be worth it." That was the moment I knew for sure. Emily wasn't just sleeping with Ryan, she was complicit in this whole scheme. She was actively encouraging me to hand over my money, to risk everything on a fake venture, just so she could see Ryan succeed. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore, it was financial, too. I smiled inwardly, knowing I had her. She had no idea what was coming. The stage was set, Ryan was hooked, and Emily was too deep in to back out. All that was left was to reel them in. I'd spent weeks perfecting the fake company, crafting every detail to make it seem like a legitimate, high-return opportunity. It was a house of cards, ready to collapse the moment they made their move. I remember the day Ryan called me, his voice practically dripping with excitement. He'd done his research, and he was all in. "Daniel, I've talked to my team, and we're ready to go. I'm in for $500,000. Let's do this." I nearly laughed out loud. $500,000. That was more than enough to destroy him. I played it cool. "Great, Ryan. I think you're making a solid choice here." I could feel my pulse quicken. This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. We set up a meeting to finalize the investment. Emily was with me, of course, pushing me to take the plunge, telling me how much we could make if we just trusted Ryan. She was practically salivating at the idea of the money rolling in. But she didn't know that the only thing she was going to roll in was regret. At the meeting, I had everything ready. The fake documents were in order. The CEO of the startup, an actor I hired, was there, presenting a slick pitch about the company's bright future. Everything was perfect. Ryan didn't hesitate for a second. He signed the papers without so much as a second thought. The deal was done. He transferred the money into our account. Emily was practically glowing with excitement, thinking this was the beginning of something huge. And then, I executed the plan. I remember sitting back in my office, watching the numbers appear on my screen as the transfer went through. For a moment, I felt a rush of exhilaration, but it was short-lived. I quickly shut down the company website. The professional-looking site I'd spent hours building vanished into thin air. Next, I had my actors pack up the office we'd set up. The fake employees, who had been posing as company staff, left the building, never to return. Within hours, every trace of the fake venture was gone. But I didn't stop there. I wiped clean all the company's digital traces, deleted the website, and made sure there was no way for Ryan or Emily to track us down. I made sure the phone number listed on the fake website no longer worked. I left them nothing but empty promises and shattered dreams. I didn't even wait for them to realize what had happened. It wasn't until the following day that Ryan started reaching out, calling me, texting me. I ignored every message. I could already hear the panic in his voice. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know what yet. It was Emily, though, who I truly wanted to destroy. She had no idea that I was already gone, that the trap had already been set. I sent her one final message before I vanished. You didn't just betray me. You sold me out. Now you and your lover can suffer together. Enjoy your new life, if you can afford one. It felt good to say the words. It felt like a weight had lifted off my shoulders. But I wasn't done. Not yet. The fallout came fast. At first, I didn't know how far the chaos would spread. But it didn't take long for me to find out. A week later, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. It was Ryan. I stared at the screen for a moment, savoring the moment before answering. His voice came through, shaky and desperate. "Daniel, what the hell happened?" he demanded. "Where's the company? Where's the money?" I could almost hear his heart pounding through the phone. "I don't know what you're talking about, Ryan," I said, keeping my tone even, my voice calm. "Everything was fine when you signed the papers." He cursed under his breath, the panic setting in. "You can't just disappear like this. I've lost everything, my money, my reputation. You can't just take $500,000 and leave." I didn't respond. I had no reason to engage with him anymore. Meanwhile, Emily had started calling too. At first, I ignored her messages. Then, I received a letter. It was from Emily, of course, written in the frantic, desperate style she only used when she needed something. "Please, Daniel, I don't know what's happening. Ryan's flipping out. I don't know what to do. I'm scared." Scared? That was rich. After everything she'd done to me, the betrayal, the lies, now she was scared? But Emily's panic had only just begun. A few days later, I found out from a mutual acquaintance that Ryan had borrowed money from some very unsavory people to fund his investment. He'd gotten himself tangled up with some of the wrong people, and now they were coming after him. It was all over for him. Emily's life wasn't any better. Once Ryan realized he'd been played, he did what any person with a bruised ego and a shattered business would do. He turned on her. He dumped her, telling her she was bad luck, that her involvement had ruined him. He blamed her for the whole thing, despite being the one who had eagerly thrown money at a scam. But that's the thing with greed, it clouds your judgment. Ryan didn't just lose money. His reputation was in tatters. His business ventures crumbled, and he lost investors left and right. Even worse, the people he owed money to weren't the kind you could talk to. They didn't care about excuses. The pressure was too much for Emily. She tried to reach out to me, begging for forgiveness, asking me to help fix everything. But it was too late. The damage had been done. By the time she realized her mistake, she had lost everything. Her affair had cost her not only her marriage but also her financial security. Her lover had destroyed her, just as much as she had destroyed me. And now, she was alone. I'd moved on, of course. I didn't need to stick around to see her suffer. I had already made my exit, disappearing to a new city, starting fresh. I'd taken everything I needed with me, the money, the satisfaction, and the knowledge that I had finally taken control. Before I left, I sent Emily one final message: "You don't get to win. You thought you were clever, playing both sides, but you didn't just ruin me. You ruined yourself. You and Ryan can try to pick up the pieces, but trust me, you'll never get them all back." Emily had tried calling me again, but I didn't answer. I'd heard enough. In the end, it wasn't just the affair that tore them apart. It was their greed, their betrayal, their refusal to see what was right in front of them. They had thought they could outsmart me, but they couldn't have been more wrong. As for me, I was finally free. I had no regrets. It wasn't just the money. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my life, and showing them what happens when you mess with the wrong person. And as I looked out the window of my new apartment, I couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. The chapter was closed. I had taken my revenge, and it was perfect.